I'm going to round and back the book which I've just the end papers on. Here it is. I've just sewn on the end papers. I've just re-glued the back. I glued it a little bit before, but that's all gluing at the or resting at the moment. So I got my end papers on and trimmed them. So now I have to round and back the spine, and I'll do that. I'll get it into the press. I won't go through all the business of getting it into the press again, but I will show you how to do it with these cords. In the meantime, I'm going to make up the boards, which have got to be lined with bank paper. I'm going to put a leather cover on, and if you put a leather cover onto boards and you don't line them with a thin, strong paper, they will curve outwards towards the leather, and there's not much you can do about that. And they've got to dry, so I've got to do that a day in advance. This is a sheet of thin bank paper. Bank paper is very thin and strong. You can get it in packets of A4. And because it's that size, I've got to cut it to shape, and I'm not going to waste it because it is quite expensive. And so I'm just going to cut down roughly round the shape of the board. These boards are not absolutely cut to size. They're slightly bigger than I need, so I'm going to do the lining and then cut them to shape when I've got the book rounded and back. So that will be for that one, and for this one I'm just going to roughly cut the pages so that I've got another strip of bank paper on there. And you know, the grain is very important in this particular case, because it does have to go with the grain of the board, and so it's got to be vertical. So I'll put that in like that. That's fine. It doesn't have to be absolutely accurate because it's all going to be hidden by linings and all sorts of other things. So I'm just going to paste the piece of bank paper. Indeed, I'll just paste all of them, and then just let them rest for a little bit. I think, as you can see reasonably well, I think, on there. I'll move it a bit closer to the camera in a minute. You can see already that the bank paper is stretching sideways. Unlike glue, you can be pretty generous with paste, largely because you very often want it to do something like stretch it. And in this case, we want it to stretch so that when we put it on the board, it will stretch the board on one side and pull it in as it dries. So those can be just sitting and waiting. And again, you need to make sure, like end papers, that it's evenly pasted. So that's had a few moments. So I'm going to put the board down onto it. It's easier than picking it up. And then you see that there are quite a lot of wrinkles. I'm just going to stretch them out sideways so that it stretches the board a little bit as it dries, or rather it stretches the board and then pulls it back in again, and so I can ease over all the extra stretching. It doesn't matter if it tears slightly, don't worry about it. And I don't press that, I'm just going to leave it standing up as it is. It'll stretch, curve alarmingly in the wrong direction. It'll curve that way first of all as the moisture penetrates the board, and then as it dries it'll come back in again, and you will end up with a pair of curved boards that look rather like that. You can see there's quite a curve on that board there. I'm then going to pick up the other bits, and I'll start with that one and make sure that's well stretched over, and then add in these other little bits, and it doesn't matter if they're slightly overlapping or they're not overlapping at all. The general effect will be to pull the boards inwards. And I will stretch them out a little bit. each way. So those have just got to sit until tomorrow.